Hey folks, it's Mike, and I would like to thank our sponsor, Sunset Lake Farms out of Burlington, Vermont. Amazing people, amazing product, high quality CBD that I love and I'm using daily. My favorites are the Vibe Gummies, the Salve with Arnica, the Dark Roast Coffee, and my doggy loves the treats. And you guys can partake in all of these great products at a discount if you go to sunsetlakecbd.com and use promo code DENTED at checkout. That is DENTED at checkout for 20% off of your entire purchase. If you've been thinking about trying CBD, now's the time. Head on over, tell them I sent you. Well, dude, it's so nice that we finally did it. We're here.
Here we are. Finally happened after many schedulings.
And you know what? It's cool because I know you and I share a thing that, like, you know, we're living not city life. We're home people. We're suburban people. We're cul-de-sac people. And a lot of stuff just comes up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically I am in the city, and this is not me going, no, but I'm still cool. I'm not cool. I do live in a cul-de-sac. It is technically in a city, but it's like, you know, LA is city burbs.
Right.
You know, LA is a clump of cities shoved together. You're
right. Yeah.
Because you're out. Are you in Vermont?
No, I'm like an hour outside the city. I'm in Southern Connecticut. But
got it. Oh, cool.
Yeah. And for a long time, for the first 8 years or so of my marriage, my wife and I lived separate, but we were happy. It was like a thing. Like, it wasn't like it was for work.
Huh.
Like, so we bought a house. We got married. We bought a house in 2012.
Uh-huh.
And then I became friends with, really close friends with Big J Okerson. And he's like, I got a room at my place in the East Village. If you want to come there, you could stay there and I'll show you around. You can open for me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I had to, like, go to my new wife and be like, hey, do you mind if I, like, go live in Manhattan?
Dude, we were just, for people listening, Mike and I were just riffing about an idea for a sketch, you know, joking about someone being on mute or for the one person and or thinking they can't be heard, and then they're just talking trash about him. And I'm like, that's a great idea for a sketch. What you just said that's a sitcom. That's it, especially like as big as Big J is now, as popular as he is now.
Yeah.
You just take you know, Mike, nice guy, you know, no offense, you're maybe a little old to play him now. The guy
True.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But we get some like 31-year-old guy, and he's just got married, and he's like, is it okay? And we still use Big J. Of
course.
Because, you know, maybe they were related distantly or whatever, and Big J's like, yeah, come live at my place.
Uh-huh.
And his this poor young bride of this dude is like, what? Doesn't want to hold back his dreams,
right?
But he's like moves in with Big J with the weightlifting gloves, and like they're just these gas media scumbags in and out of Joe's. What would it be now? A penthouse apartment or something?
Now,
anyway.
Yeah, totally. But
back then, anyway, go on. I in my mind I was just like, oh my Lord. Okay,
well,
so
let's workshop it, because continue. I'll tell you what. No, but it was a thing where, and she said, yeah, go ahead. I'll get my nurse practitioner license and I'll go back to school. So we kind of like both. We did our own separate things, right? Yeah. And then I got a gig writing for Impractical Jokers and got my own 1-bedroom in Queens. So her and I had a place in Queens and a place in Connecticut. And then the pandemic hit, and I said, you know what? It's been 8 years. I think I'm ready to live with my wife. And we got back together, and it was like this. The pandemic was amazing for us because it was almost like we started dating again. It was wild.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
But I fell madly in love with like suburban life, like not living in the city. Or you're right. LA is very. I was out there on Halloween, and just the drive from LAX I was staying up near Universal, and it was Halloween night, and I just had to drive through kids trick-or-treating with their nannies.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was very weird.
The nanny thing is weird. We go to this neighborhood in Echo Park every year for trick-or-treating. It's just one block, and it's just packed. And there's one house that there's always a line down the block. It's like a party house where it's like, I've heard lore, like the guy who owns it, I guess he does everything from, I don't know, like he's involved in all kinds of fields, including porn a little bit or something. But like,
oh, wow.
You go back there and they'll just be like, these hot chicks giving out candy and stuff. And like, okay, there's kids around and stuff, but it's just like, it's nuts. And there's a full bar.
Wow.
All this stuff. But like other houses are just really done up and the kids go nuts because it's like, oh my God, this is a Nightmare Before Christmas house. This is a,
sure.
Dracula house, stuff like that. And so it's like, I would never, if I'm ever, I don't go out of town on Halloween, even if it's on a weekend, I'm staying. I'm taking this kid trick-or-treating. She's 4, or to be 4 in August. It's like, I don't want to miss this. They're in about 10 years, she's going to be like, stay the hell away from me, Dad.
Oh, yeah.
Friends. So it's like, I got this finite time,
That's so cool.
Like, if I saw a little kid with a nanny, I'd just be like, that parent, I pray to God they're like, they have a job that they just can't, it's like, it's they're doing something for the family. But it's like, I hope they know what they're missing.
You're right.
Like,
you're right.
Because like to your point of like finding the love in the pandemic, my wife was pregnant during the pandemic, and people a few times have been like, that must have been so hard to have a kid born in August of that year. And I'm like, no, it's the best thing of all time.
Best thing, because the minute you got home from the hospital, it was like, woo, yeah.
I didn't, even before that, I had her to focus on.
Right.
Like I've always been known as to be something of a big drinker in my life, but like I remember my wife at one point thanking me for not getting blotto all the time like everybody was getting. And it's like, if I didn't have my wife, much as my pregnant wife in my life, dude, if I still lived alone, I'm sure 2020 would have sent me to AA. No question in my mind. No question. Where it would have been just like that slip slide into, okay, I don't even drink to feel good or to celebrate. I drink to feel normal. And when I'm not, I'm like on the bottom, so having it's the suburban thing you mentioned. I was just thinking about, like, last thing I'll say, not to hijack the conversation, but
no, God, please.
When you
I'm handing it to you.
How when you're mentioning how I said this convoluted thing of like, it's LA's the city, but it's the burbs. It's like, New York City is not only a city, it's the city. Yeah. It always annoys me when people are like, compare New York to LA. It's like, that's like comparing bow hunting from a galloping horse to like putting fruit in a basket.
Yeah.
And it's way too fucking hot. It's like for want of another analogy, you can't. The vibes, the energies, everything's wildly different. And it's like, I know generally speaking, I prefer LA, but I know I miss the action of New York. I miss the energy of New York. I went to college just outside the city, and like, I miss having that powder keg of life there. That's thing. But
it is a powder keg.
College in Connecticut. I dated a girl from Norwalk when I was in.
Oh, cool.
She was my first like big like adult girlfriend. As a young man, and she's now, and I think she's still there. I saw her at my college reunion, and she's great. Like I always have. We used to go and go to Connecticut, and I had a couple friends from there. Going to school in New York, you always meet Connecticut. It's all right there, but
yeah. So. That was so. Is that where you started stand up? Did you start in New York?
No, Chicago. I was in college in New York, and was just kind of like, since I was a kid, I was like, I'm an actor. That's my thing,
Yeah.
And in Chicago, stumbled into improv, and then stumbled even further into stand up, and that became like the thing of, oh, this is a really cool way to express myself, and a thing I've been a fan of since I was a kid. I was always clacking and stuff, so it's just natural.
I've realized in retrospect, and this is, I think, the pandemic was sort of retrospective time. It was like a time to like look back on a lot of stuff that I think maybe I just glazed over. It was like time stood still, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it took forever at the same time. I think I was a class clown because I was trying so hard to hide the fact that I was scared of how hard it was to learn. Like I think
Interesting.
I
Oh,
had a
wow.
real hard time, like math class in particular. I used to get kicked out of. I was honors English, honors Italian,
Hey.
etymology. I was good at study
Oh.
of word origins. What else? Psychology. I loved math class. I would like get kicked out year after year after year just because I was like, I'd look at the numbers and they would move.
Yeah.
And I'd panic and be like, I just got to throw a spitball or fart noises. Like I just turned into Bart Simpson the minute I hit math class, you know?
Sure.
And it's so funny to look back and be like, oh man, like even as an adult, like I still have nightmares about being late to a math final.
Yes. Yes.
So weird.
Yeah, I was so bad at math and science. I'm like you, certainly right-brained. Loved reading. Got a kick out of history when it was taught the right way. You know, and that didn't really happen until I was like in college. For me. But yeah, terrible at math, and I think it was just that kind of, you know, they always said that you know, lamest of lame but truest of true things, follow your joy. Yeah. I think it's hard. It's really hard to apply yourself when it's not something you have an affinity for.
Right.
You know, I think people that are good at math, like from the jump, they just love solving problems and they have that kind of analytical mind on a numbers level. And that's great. I loved that. I loved solving problems, but at a certain point I'm like, I got a headache. Can I go read the Stephen King book? Can I just go be a creep over in the corner and read this thing? You know,
100%. Yeah.
It just wasn't. It wasn't my bag. But that's why, you know, I really love teachers who kind of go, okay, let me show how you can be interested in this. You know,
so interesting that you say that. Yeah, I took a summer course once. A physics teacher, Physics Phil, I think his name was. He he did the stuff where it was like put a brick on his chest and smash it, and but he would lay on like a bed of nails kind of thing, you know. And
wow.
But it was this whole neat thing, and he'd lay down and like put like a pendulum type, like a swing that would go like right by his face, and but and we got it in that sense because he made it palpable and he made it, you know. But I got it in my head early on, and I don't know where I got it, but I had this idea that numbers and math and time were all made up, like it was all fake. Like I just had this thing of like, well, we can turn the clocks any way we want. It's not real. If you unplug the clock and you plug it back in, it's noon.
Can I ask, is this how you discovered the Grateful Dead and then Fish?
Yes, time didn't matter.
None of it matters, man.
Nothing matters, dude.
Numbers aren't real. I don't know.
Surrender to the flow, man.
Listen,
yeah, that's it.
You call it rent. I call it affliction. Listen, I made you some amazing muffins, and you refuse to taste them, landlord.
You'll get your mortgage when I think it's time, narc. Yeah, no, it's so true. It's just that thing of like, I never cared. However, like I would read poetry or whatever, you know, read Kerouac or whatever the hell, and I was like, oh, like I gotta be that, you know. I want to go like, but yeah, it's wild. I think a lot of us have that, you know. There's a couple mathematical comics that write almost mathematically, you know what I mean? Like you could tell the ones that are like like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I could reel off a few that it's like, oh, it fits into this mathematical thing of the traditional misdirection. Yeah. You know, or that's the big one. Or
it's got
absurdity.
Like a greedy duck. Yeah, absurdity, 100%.
Yeah, I mean it's also very simple. You're not going to have what is it? I'm butchering it, but the Pythagorean theorem or whatever, you know, like it's
Pythagorean.
Pythagorean. Yeah, you're not gonna have a Goodwill Hunting equation that the audience. You're right. Because that's what I've been trying, and my wife has been telling me to boil my stuff down for so long because I do meander and I get thoughts and I'm like, I should share this, and this. Come back to, nope, stay on the road. Stay on the road. Stop wandering off in the woods. Take them here and then go take them somewhere else. Definitive destinations is kind of my.
But I love what you do.
But dude, thanks. But I'm watching tape of myself now where it's like, I remember get off stage and be like, that was so fun. Everyone had so much fun. And I watch it, but I'm babbling. You know, it's like I'm just sharing every feeling in my heart. Yeah. You know, it's just like I'm like a little girl her first time at Disneyland, and I'm showing everything off, and it's, you know, fun for me and a lot of their audience. But I know there's a couple people that are like, boy, I wish you'd get to something concrete, you know, and like
I get it.
Not the whole time, the whole time, but it's kind
of.
That's just how I write. And so like I'm working harder on kind of going, let me envision that moment without it being a moment and then writing it down and boiling it down, you know.
I get exactly what you're.
And that's my math. You know what I mean? Now that's my hard math now, but it's like, I got to start doing it. I really do.
You know? Well, it's hard and it's practice, but also it's that thing of like, the thing I love about your comedy. And even like from the first time we hung out in Vermont together, you leave it all. You like cut your veins and you're like, here I am. This is me. This is the whole story. Like if something happened to you on Church Street in Burlington that weekend, you're going to open with that and go, here's what my day was. And just tell some amazing story that shows your true like spirit. It's not sales at all because it's not fake, but it's this thing of kind of like, you know, inherently that like you've got 7 seconds to like win their heart. Yeah.
Well, it's also, I like having it's got to be one of those things that kind of burns itself in your brain, almost like the most plausible explanation of ghosts I've ever heard is that there was a moment that was so, you know, intense, it burned an impression.
Oh wow!
In time. So like I tried to work 1,000 years ago. I tried to work on a joke about like, why is it always like a child murder? Why is it always like a ghost of a kid? Why can't there be the ghost of like Hendrix rocking the shit out of 1,000 people and they're just like, he's still rocking. He's still in that room.
Go in that room.
That impression was so strong. People were so emotionally knocked out by that. You know, it was like the opposite of trauma. They felt so good. You know, it's like, why is it always a bad thing that leaves that burn? So it's got to be a thing that's just like, you know, perfect example, Dallas, Texas. I got in an elevator on like the 18th floor, and it was the big University of Texas, Austin versus University of Texas, Dallas game.
Okay.
And they'd taken over my hotel, all these college kids, and every floor was just full of hammered college kids, but different kinds of hammered. And they would come in and out of the elevator. And so I got to the show and I was like, this story's burning a hole in my skull. I got to tell the story. So it was like, you know, I wish I had every time what you said, where it was just like this thing, but it's like, that shit just doesn't happen that much.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I wish it did. I wish I would see more wild stuff. So I would have to write less and just be like, let me just tell you this story. Because that's my favorite thing.
I could tell it's your favorite thing, just like, you know, in Doug, where you're talking about changing, you know, Rose in the bathroom in Nebraska. And it's like this idea of like, I know that whole experience of kind of like, now I do a bit about react and regret, right? Where it's like my whole life is react and regret. And it's like such a central theme. Like, I feel like that could be its own hour or whatever, right? But
100%.
I think about like in the bathroom, if I were changing my new daughter during a pandemic at the Double Deuce, essentially, you're like basically like, what is this guy looking at? Like, he's staring at my daughter, and then he like to pull out the same like, you know, diaper rash lotion that you had, and that like breaking down of I judged this guy without even knowing. Like, those are the most fun, vulnerable Like that to me makes you. Like when I hear that, I know that that's you. Like that's the thing I really like about it, you know?
Thanks, man. Thanks. I mean, I think you have that too, where it's kind of like, we're both kind of like, you know, I blanch at calling us like figuring it out guys, but like, because those are the worst. Those guys are the most annoying people in the world. Any girl or woman listening to this, or guy listening to this who dates guys has had at least one of those. Hey, I'm just figuring things out. It's like, you're 45. When does this experiment end?
You're done.
You know?
Yeah.
You're just having fun. Just say it. You're just having fun. You're having fun. You can't pick a lane. You know,
just figuring it out.
With us, I think it is that thing of, because we do, you know, like stumble, and there's another. I just thought of something. It's one of those weird bits I've tried to crack, but I was on a plane, and you know, this guy came up to me and goes, "What's your name?" Like, serious. And I'm like, "Oh, Matt Braunger." And I'm thinking it's like, oh, he knows my comedy. I'm meeting a fan. And he hands me my wallet. It fell out of my pants when I was taking a dump on a plane. That's all. He just hands it to me. And at that moment of like, oh, maybe you've seen me on I Took a Shit. You saw me.
Maybe you've smelled me on that's amazing.
Maybe you found there's no other way. There's no way your wallet fell out peeing. So you're just like, let me go find this guy who just wiped his ass. Let me find this guy to just drop some rain. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's hilarious. I had a I'm trying to figure out. So like, you know, being done with the special and now trying to do, you know, we're always, now that's what we do. We churn out free hours.
Oh, dude, side note, quick pause. My last hour, I had an hour post Doug, and I shot the whole thing, not the same quality as a special, but still really good, and just chopped it up and threw it online. So it's just chopped up in bits.
Literally.
It's not, you know, it's one of those things. My wife was like, I don't think a special is going to do much for you right now. And, you know, you broke your neck promoting Doug, and did fine. But it's like, now we're all kind of, you know, it's always swimming upstream. Now we're kind of like, we're climbing a mountain against an avalanche, because it's just, the comedy special is the word has been rendered completely false, because it's nothing of it's special. It's they're you know, I'm not like, oh, people need to stop making them, but it's just been a scattergun for the past 6-7 years. So, and it's this thing where it used to be like, oh boy, what's the gold standard, a Netflix special? No, the gold standard is more be someone that plays stadiums, you know, and you just keep making these specials, and it's like, it is kind of this, it's almost like the billionaire class. Like, unless you've kind of created your own, unless you've done like the Segura thing, you know, or the Big J thing, you know, where you created your own ecosystem, or Schultz, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of the rest of us are all trying to crack the code, and we're doing it, you know, but, you know, it's never been harder to sell tickets. It's never been harder to get eyes on your stuff, you know? And this is not me complaining. This is me just talking about the honest landscape, where it's like, I have moments where I definitely have feelings of spiraling, and no, I won't say my wife talks me off a ledge, but it's this thing where the fact that I get messages from people every day being like, I really love your shit. You got me through some stuff. You know, it's one of those things where you and I have this thing, and this is, we have a friendship, but it's like, we wouldn't be talking to each other if we weren't funny, if we weren't fans of each other's work. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It makes me feel elitist, where I'm like, why am I only friends with fucking hilarious comics?
Right.
But it's just, if you do it for a living and we've come this far, it's kind of like, you wouldn't still be in the game. I wouldn't still be in the game.
Right.
So, you know.
Yeah. It's insane, and it's like a new anxiety every day. And I just kind of wake up with like, okay, I just figured that anxiety out, and now I'm feeling a different anxiety. And when you say about specials, like, I literally couldn't agree more that it's like, we're bringing a Dixie cup of water to the Pacific Ocean, and just like pouring it in there and hoping that maybe like a fish carries it to a whale and it like gets spouted and it matters, but
you're gonna have it's one of those things where people are like, you know, the obvious stupid thing is straight white males, you know, but they're killing it.
Oh God, yeah.
A few, you know what I mean? The few,
a handful, and
a handful, and you know the ones that you know you could. So it's like you can't. It's not exactly that, but it's like when you are not massive, it's the niches that make you kind of stand out, and of course, not being that is its own niche, you know, in a sense, because of the landscape, because of you know our society and stuff. So it's like. You really got to just focus on the stuff you want to put out there and do the stuff you love and kind of find your people. And
that's it.
It's definitely hard because right now people, you know, spending money on tickets is a tough ask, you know, to get from people. Where I've had people literally send me messages that are just like, I wanted to see you, but we already bought tickets for this person, and that's our budget. And they're bigger names than me, and they're not, you know, like this, that, or the other. But it's like it stings, but you're also like, you know, I appreciate knowing that a little bit. You know what I mean? And this is, if anyone's listening and they're just like, oh, I should tell them when I don't buy a ticket to a show. You don't have to do that.
Please don't. Yeah. But I've seen
thankfully
what you've
people
done.
Still do come, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, so. No, and I've seen you put up a post that says like, if you can't afford it, message me.
Dude, yeah, because I have a list. I always have a list.
Oh, you're the best, dude.
Every
I love
club
that about you.
Wants to have no, but I mean that's not just me. I mean it's you know every comedy club wants asses in seats because people buy drinks.
Right.
Every music venue I play, they want a couple people in there that like. You know, there'll be a guy who's a booker who's like new to town. It's like, I don't know that many people. And I'm like, I know like 5 people there.
Yeah.
And they're my friends. Can I put up a list? And they'll be like, cool, he or she, you know? So it's not, people have said to me, that's so cool that you do that. But it's like, I just have names, like spots going to waste. If I'm not selling a room out, you know, which I'll be honest, it happens. It doesn't happen that often. And it happens less and less these days because what I said. People don't have as much money for tickets and this, that, and the other.
A million things to choose from. Like, I know. Yeah.
Exactly.
But the thing that's cool is that you think of it, you at least think of it to put it out there because perception is reality. If people don't know that like, oh, the club would just like to have me. Like, that's just so neat to go like, hey, by the way, if you can't afford it, let me know. And I'll, you know, that's a smart thing to do, you know? Now everybody can afford it.
Yeah, I'm gonna write.
I know,
thousands.
Right? Oh my God! What a poor town.
I'd buy a ticket, but you said I can't afford it, and I'm just like, so I'm like, maybe what if I just told you I can't afford it?
Hilarious.
It's funny. I just put up a video for Portland, Maine this Friday. I don't know when this is coming out, but probably not until next week.
Next week. Okay,
great. So no worries. But I just said in the video, I was like talking about Portland versus Portland, making up a beef.
Sure,
you know, how Portland, like Portland, I'm like, we need to put that aside. Most of us are high and or drunk on craft beers, and way too many of us are white. And then the next thing I said was like, and if you're black, you get in free because it's Maine. And then I go on to the other thing, and I literally had a guy message me like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And he's like, because I have a friend who's of color, and I invited them. I'm like, "What's their name?" They're on the list.
Fantastic.
You know? You know, it's like, I'm not doing it in Atlanta.
No.
You know what I mean? Like in Atlanta, I'd be like, okay, the whole list can be black, but I only have 15. I have 15 spots. Oh my God.
That's amazing.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just the thing where it's like, it's like that, it's dark, but that old Attell bit about how there's a KKK in Alaska. Like what?
Yeah.
Like where it's just like, all right, we got to get Kyle.
One
guy.
We got to get Kyle. Know? That's right.
So dumb.
Why, they're still having meetings? Like, what are they? Right? More things to hate? Which, by the way, I will say, you bring him up. He's the king. That is a special. Dude, that's the thing, man.
Yeah. I don't watch comedy specials. I don't. I do and I don't. If, you know, when someone I really am a fan of is like, they come out with one, I'm like, okay, I'll watch it or I'll watch part of it. I did not get up from the couch all of Attell's, and I've since then I've watched it 1.5 more times. It's
the best.
It's like, Skank for the Memories is still my favorite comedy album of all time. And it's one of those things where, we get caught up in who's the greatest comedian of all time, or who's the greatest comedian alive. It's almost like the rapper thing.
Sure.
Or,
Yes.
5 dead or alive and stuff. And it's just like, for me, comedians it's always fluctuating. You know what I love right now? And I don't go, there's no one I've really loved and I've been like, I don't like them anymore,
Right.
Whatever, generally speaking. But like, he's just one of those guys where there's never been a time that I've gone to see him and this drag performer called Dina Martina, who I love. Okay. That's like watching, it's like if your drunk aunt put a show on. It's so over the top and it's just so insane and kind of slurring, but doing big numbers. It's a thing where if, like, I've said it to Grady, who is Dina, because we're friends now. I said it's like watching someone who thinks they're headlining in Vegas and is just a mess. But it's so well done. It's not like this person's like, I'm gonna just go act. It's not wasted. It's hard to say, but long story long, there's never been a time I've watched Dave or Dina and it not been like this, like wiping tears the whole time. Where it's like,
it's just it's so unbelievably refreshing, and it's almost like a reset. You know what I mean? Where it's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, no, this is right now. Comedy is like, yes, it's having a moment, but it's also an existential crisis for quite a bit of us, and it's this thing of kind of like. But Dave is always Dave. Dave is like the conduit. He's like the lightning rod or whatever. And it's just this, and the way he ends it, and the way the special ends is just so perfect. And he's just so and he's so unassuming, and he's so like humble. Like if you listen to any interview with him now or any podcast, it's like, this is the thing I love about Dave putting a special out, is I get to listen to him on podcasts. Like I'm friends with him and we talk, but it's like so cool to hear him, bullshit with Ari about doing like shows with the troops. And, I've had the honor of like working with him on the road, and like we've done like just 2-man shows where like we'll go to DC Improv and I'll do a half hour, he'll do 45, and then bring me out, and just seeing him in the corner laughing at something I said, it brings me into that present moment that we never get to experience as comics, where I'm like, oh wow, I'm making Attell laugh. Like this is okay. This is basically everything else is gravy from this point on, And I love that he's getting the love that he deserves, and
Yeah, I mean, and it was cathartic for me when I listened to Bill Burr was on Marin like 10 years ago or something, and they both were like, like neither one of us will ever be as funny as Dave Attell. Like it was this thing where they were just like in accord, in agreement, where it's like, man, it's like it's that like or no, the sentiment was, you're just saying to yourself, when will I be as funny as Attell? Right. Like it's and it was just a name they plucked out of the ether, but a name I was like, oh, that's my North Star too.
Yeah.
And it's not, we can bring up other comedians that are like, Maria Bamford is this like he weaves this friggin' tapestry of genius. Right. And like you have like you have John Mulaney, where it's so smart and it's all kind of put together, and you have I'm just picking people out of the air. Gaffigan has this universal appeal that's undeniably hilarious.
Right.
Like these are very funny people. These are geniuses at their craft, experts, if you will. But like Dave Attell, it's like no one's more fun. No one's more like, I'm just having such a goddamn good time right now. I'm laughing. I'm in pain. I'm laughing so hard, but the silliness is there. It's funny. I had this. I talked to Kanane last week, who I started doing comedy with, and he kind of, he gave me a lot of perspective, because I was talking about what I was talking with you earlier about, like the tickets and just fighting the fight and kind of just being like, so I kind of got a kind of a despondent moment, and I just called a friend out of nowhere, and he was kind of like, saying how, like, among other things, he and I have been in every position in this race. We've been like the hot young kids, and we've been like, the ones that they do all the festivals, and we've been, and it's like, now it's like I'm a working comic, but it's this thing where I'm like, not diminishing returns, but it's just like, wait, you get some signals that are high, some are low, it gets a little exhausting. And he was just like, he's like, can I give you a note? I'm like, fucking please tell me something. He's like, I think you need to get back to the silliness more. I think you need to get back to like he's like Stu River Braunger, that's still there. And I bit about what if Willy Wonka was a savory, if his world was savory, I think how shitty it would be. Everything's like sweating meat and like cheese, and it's like everything's steamy like a cafeteria. Have like a cafeteria kitchen, and all of the Loompa Loompas smoke, and they have heart disease, and like it's like, and his line was pizza and nachos and hot dogs for you. Let's take a ride on my river of stew. Like, no, I don't want to take a ride in your stew river, Willie. And so, and it's just absurd. And like, fuck, you're right. Maybe I talk too much about my kid. Maybe I talk too much about my family and stuff. And that, I'm not saying that, but it's like, it's like, oh, fuck, you're right. Like, of course, we're talking about Attell, and I brought it back to me, but
that's okay. That's okay.
The thing I love about him is it's the fucking silliness. The silliness. Like, he makes a trans joke on the thing that's so silly, and I'm just like, fucking, that's it. That's how you use that word.
Right.
In silliness.
Right.
In silliness, because it's such a hot button thing, and it's just this thing where it's, no matter how you talk about it, you're on one position or another, or whatever, where he just says, my mother's 90, she's still doing great. Yay! No need to cheer. She's not trans.
And
so
that's
ridiculous.
And that's it.
It's so fucking ridiculous.
Yep.
It just it's so dumb.
It's like, so dumb, but
I
so
feel like
amazing.
I would laugh at that if I were trans, because it's just like, I'm just so fucking sick about talking about what I am.
Yes, yes. He's a popper. He pops balloons. You know what I mean? Like, the industry is doing this, and he just goes bing with his cleverness and his The thing I love so much about him is where he'll do like, he's like, I look good in the fog, holding a lantern. Who goes there, friend or foe? And he goes, fog talk. Like, fog talk. Just like the cadence that he goes, fog talk. Right. To me, that's Dave. Like, where he'll just do like that yawn. Like, he'll tell a joke that's amazing, and he'll just go, ha, he, ha, ha, ha. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? Yeah. Like, I remember 4 a.m. one morning, I get a text from him that goes, joke check. Because he's always wondering, are people doing these themes, And he goes, he goes, joke check. If you drown in an above ground pool, do you go to heaven? And I'm like, it woke me up out of like a sound sleep. And I'm like, hilarious. I'm blown away. First of all, it's like Plato hands you a riddle. Now, like Jean-Paul Sartre's like, oh, can you read this quick, existentialist? And I'm like befuddled because I'm half asleep. Blown away at how hilarious this riddle is, stoked that Attell's texting me, but then also furious that I will never think of anything as funny as that.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's all yours, Dave. And then I'm just like, I just laid in bed like, I'm a fraud. Like, maybe there's sales, maybe there's teaching. Like, what's next for me, But he is a guy who, I mean... just the things it's impossible for him. One time, dude, all right, so outside the cellar in the summer, they throw a table outside just for people to sit during the day, have a coffee, whatever. He rides a city bike over, okay? And he's got an iced coffee that's like the biggest, a big gulp of iced coffee inside of like a cold cup with a straw, wearing a hat. Like, he's just, everything's weird. But he comes over and he sets the iced coffee on the table, gets off the city bike, and the bike slowly collapses onto the table, and the coffee spills onto the city bike, and in perfect like narrative fashion, he goes, "Oh no, a hipster 911." And it was just the greatest moment. I mean, like people were walking by and saw it and they just died laughing. There was just like such silly, goofy. He just can't not be brilliant at all times. Like it's so amazing, and I'm so happy that that's a special. I hope that recalibrates things and goes like I felt shitty calling my special a special. Like, you know, I go talk on podcasts and they're like, "Oh, so you have a new special out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." Like, I'm putting a thing on YouTube. Like,
you know, dude, I will say though, part of me regrets chopping my hour up and just dumping it, because I'm just like, ugh. But like, you know, the guy who shot it was like, "Please, you got to promise me if I shoot this, you can't release it as a special, because I haven't used the quality camera." You know, it would have cost me.
Sure. It
wouldn't have made sense. It would have, you know, it's not worth putting a dent in your savings for this thing that, you know, for this roll in the dice. But it's like, part of me kind of wishes, like, God damn it, you know, if I would have gotten a big acting job or something, I would have just put all of it on that special, like, no question in my mind.
Yeah.
But so like it is, because it's you know, it is our little. I'm trying to work on not having that rule in my brain in terms of like, but we have these fence posts.
You're right.
You got to have, you know, because I have had a lot. And I've had even more albums, and it's kind of like you know, just this thing of I know those comics who keep churning stuff out, but they don't change anything.
Yeah.
And you know, that's how I want to tell to be, but I think I got to kind of give, because he's the perfect package.
Yes.
Don't change a thing at all. You know.
Well, and I mean, when's the last time?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. When's the last time he put something out too? You know what I mean?
Dude,
like,
I know. What's his name? I don't think he'd mind me saying this, but Jack Vaughn, who is now over at Pandora, and he did he did a couple albums of mine. He did my first album ever, Soak Up the Night, and you know, we keep in touch. We talk sometimes.
I love Jack. Great guy.
Yeah, we were talking about a talent. He was like, I recorded, this is years ago. He's like, I recorded an album with Dave, and it was the funniest thing I'd ever worked on. And he wouldn't let me release it because he wasn't happy. He's like, I begged him, please let me put it. And it was one of those things where I was just like, wait, excuse me? You know, it was like, it'd be like, you know, a cinephile finding out like, oh yeah, Kubrick shot a movie with, and you reel off everybody's favorite actors, and you know, people watched it and jizzed in their pants. They couldn't believe it. It was a cinematic masterpiece, supposedly like best thing they've ever seen, and it perfectly encapsulates the human condition. And if you haven't seen it, your life is lesser. But he didn't like it. It was like, it's one of those things where it's just like, I'm not saying it would kill someone to listen to that album, but I might push him down the stairs.
I would. You know? I would. I'd be at the bottom of the stairs holding them down by their neck until we both heard it, because
you kill him.
I would kill him. Dude, I love the thing. Yeah, because he's just, I mean, and that was the best part about, like, I mean, I have the luxury of going out with, like, the Impractical Jokers and all these other, you know, like, big shows.
Yeah.
I get off stage, and a lot of times it's kind of like I'm hanging in the back. Like, I listen and I support however I can. But when I'm with Dave, and, like, if I'm at the Cellar and I have a spot at 10 and Dave's on at 12:40 or whatever, like, I'm hanging out to, like, watch. Like, he's...
Yeah.
It's a whole other thing. I put Geraldo up there with him in that sense of just like that again. And we were talking that mathematical brain.
Yeah.
I am so envious of legal people that go the way of comedy, because it's like you have to look at everything from 100 angles, right?
Right.
So like he'll take finding a pigeon on the street dead. And like, how do you look at it? How do you, like, you know, the tent? There's no feathers, literally and figuratively, kind of like left on that pigeon.
Yeah.
By the time that joke is finished, and I just loved how watch old Geraldo tapes, and it's like it's 300 jokes a set, and there's not an ounce of fat on any of them. You know.
Yeah.
And I think I've gotten to the point, and like you were talking about like you're in this, like, maybe I'm talking a little too much about my kid, or maybe and I know I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm kind of coming out of like doing that special and starting over. And now I'm kind of having this pressure of there's 10 million comics, there's 10 million clips. The only thing that they can't talk about is me. So how do I separate myself from those 10 million? I have to talk about me. But I also feel, am I being too vulnerable? Am I being too like shoving like, oh, I did ketamine for depression? Am I going to talk about that only? Am I going to do, you know what I mean? So it's this thing of like, I don't want to lose the silly either.
No, but I feel like I have to more, it's all about the silly. You know, like when you set up taking ketamine for depression, it's like most people can't relate to ketamine. Everyone can relate to depression. Yeah. Everyone has had that thing of like, how do I get out of this feeling? I hate this feeling, you know? Right. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, no, I'm on board. Where Dave, you know, is just this fucking genius bridge troll that will say something insane that'll make everyone go, well, I'm not listening to this guy. You know? Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's one of those things where I kind of, the genius of the setup that is then thrown away in that it's Gangster Memories where he goes, so I'm sitting in a bus station reading Ta-Da magazine, the magazine by and for gay magicians. Now, and you go, I wish that existed. A magazine for gay magicians called Ta-Da. And everyone forgot about Ta-Da, but everyone knows what Ta-Da is.
Right.
So it's this thing that
it's just I know, he just throws it away. He throws it away.
And it's he makes a Fabergé egg and just chucks it against a wall and breaks. You know, it's like I don't need that.
It's so unbelievable. So it's so unbelievable.
But it's like you saying taking ketamine for depression, you know, I'm already kind of chuckling because it just sounds like an extreme solution, but it's not. If you know anything about ketamine, it actually isn't. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
But you know, it's like I want to know where you've hooked me with this thing that is so exact and so perfect. You know, I think the difference is when I say like, oh, I had a kid, but I had a kid in my late 40s. It's like, okay, well, I kind of relate, but I don't relate to that at all.
Now
that's interesting, but I just have to find something that immediately, where's the silly now? You know, where's the thing? Because every time I say it, people that don't have kids, they kind of tune out. And the other ones that do have kids go, that sounds exhausting. Now I'm tired. So it's one of those things where I realize I'm now, I just dug myself a hole. I don't know what I did there.
Yeah. So, well, can I give you an example of what you like of Ta-Da magazine of you, but you didn't throw it away. It was just this moment that like, I wish, and I would love to hear you do an entire hour. This is the thing I like about bits, especially when you know the person. You said you were sitting on a cul-de-sac holding your 1-year-old daughter and you just go, Jesus, fuck. And like it echoed right now. As someone who reacts and regrets, and I'm doing the same thing you're doing in traffic and all of that. And you get the baby got startled and, you know, like that moment to me is the most intriguing. I want to go like pause. Okay. What were you going through that caused you to go? Like, yes, I know it was like, oh, we went across country. I can't believe I did that. But there's something about the person that reacts like that to themselves out of nowhere. I could see you sitting there like bouncing a baby on your knee, and then you just go, Jesus, fuck, like, and just take a sip of like a good IPA or whatever. Like, to me, that's like, I love that. Like that it's that the thing hooks me. You know what I mean? Where it's like you're real. You're not going, oh, where are you? So you guys met where? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like you remember the guy in the crazy Irish guy in Braveheart, the guy who was all laughing and talking to God and was nuts. It's my island, like that guy.
Yeah.
That guy. The moment where he's like, they're about to just get into this horrific war, and he's like, you know, it's that. You're like, oh fuck, and like I think you and I both had that feeling of like, I can't believe I'm still doing this for a living. How? So it that Jesus fuck encapsulated. Wait, we drove across the country during a disease year where, you know, the shit I saw on that trip where you go past, like when I was in the deep South and pass a packed Cracker Barrel with no masks, and I was like, what? This is pre-vaccine. Where I'm like, what are you doing?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
I know their biscuits are delicious. Stop. You know,
of course you want to play the peg triangle game, but not now. It'll be there.
Yeah. But it was just this thing of, you know, you made it out alive, and you kind of laughed to not scream. So it's, you know, but
I get it. Yeah, laughing to keep from crying is what Langston Hughes said. But yes, I get it. Like, I love that you do that, and that's what makes me, like, I where it's hell. Like, I'll watch you, and I loved watching your special, and I love listening, and the thing that's cool is that, like, I know you mean your jokes. Like, that's the thing that matters to me is that, like, I know you mean it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, we all have jokes. Like, I'm doing a joke about, you know, like fentanyl moose. Like, there was like this cocaine shark in Florida, and it's like where are the other like drug? Like, we only know about they found cocaine on in a shark system, and I'm like, there's a lot of drugs, a lot of animals. I'm sure there's some fentanyl moose just nodding off on a Christmas tree farm up in Vermont. I just like the cartoonish idea of like Bullwinkle kind of like wearing a flannel with the sleeves rolled up, and he's drooling a little, and he's just kind of like, you know, like that East Village nod off that like.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because you just gave me, like, first thought, yes, it would be a fentanyl moose. They're just so fucking
just nodded and like just rubbing their hoofs on their forearms, like like shaking awake,
coming out of it, furious, like coming out of it.
It's making moose noises out of nowhere, and I just like
angry, like, why need more fentanyl? The fuck, you know, unkillable moose.
Unkillable.
Enough fentanyl that would kill like a whole frat. A moose could handle.
Yeah, and he's just got White Rabbit playing in his head. Just
I would but just the opening on a loop.
That's it.
Never gets to the fucking
nothing. That's
crescendo. That's too high.
That's so frustrating.
It's a hip hop. You know, it's like a Jay Dilla mix of that first very dark, very scrapey. I was in Eureka, California. You know, Humboldt County.
Yes.
And I pulled off on the side of the road because the street was full of full of moose, and there's a motel, old motel. I hope no one was in any of these units. One of those units, they're like standalone in the going like a dirt, like almost double wide, but they're not. They're actual units.
Yes.
I'm in an office. I'm not shitting you. There were at least 60 moose just walking around, all around the houses, everywhere.
Whoa.
And people were just pulling over and like from across the street taking pictures and stuff. And, you know, moose are horribly dangerous.
Yes.
You know,
yes, they're vicious.
Territorial. Yeah. It's just, will stand up and just whack, whack, whack. And you're basically dead. And then they'll stomp you to death if you're not. So, and these locals are like screaming at these tourists that are getting super close. No, honey, stand in front of the moose. And it was one of those things where like it was, they were all very peaceful and just looking around and the moose, you know, but I was just like, this could be, I'm about to see like a dad get like his skull caved in front of his family.
Yeah.
You know, where it's, and you know, I'm extrapolating your bit to nth degree, but it's like, that's fentanyl. That's fentanyl. Because you're just like, I don't know. It looks kind of interesting. A lot of moose, and it's natural. They're all there. I should get super close.
And then it's just like,
oh, you know, because
it's just the fentanyl of That's it. Done.
Fentanyl moose, just one hoof to the face, and
done.
So
and then you never hear the end of White Rabbit. It's just that.
It's so dark. I mean, like,
but I love it.
Not that I ever, you know, boy, I really loved cocaine when I did it. The handful of times I did it in my life, mostly because it let me drink more.
Of course, that acid in the early days was like that too for me.
Yeah. Mushrooms, you can drink forever on mushrooms. Yeah. But you know, it's not like anyone's offering me any now. You know, I'm 49 and thank God, but like, it's just the fentanyl thing is horrible, but it's like, I think it is making some people go, You know what? I'm not going to do a line.
Mm.
I don't know. Because it's just in everything now.
It's in everything, man. It's in weed now too, which is
fuck! I
just
didn't even
insane.
know that.
Yeah, they're putting it in weed, and they're putting it in. They're finding it like literally in anything. It could be rolled in it. It could be so you're smoking fentanyl. So I mean, that's where thank God for dispensaries and thank God for friends that grow and things like that. So you can like at least know what you're getting. Because I was even thinking about it. Like I got handed a joint in Chicago. Actually, someone goes, "Here, do you want one?" And he gave it to me in a tube or whatever, and that was sweet. But I literally like went and put it right in the trash because I also didn't want to be the guy who's like. I give it to the cook at the club and then he smokes it and dies. I have that guilt of like, forget, I can't do it. There's enough weed right now that like, you don't need to give me it. Thank you, but keep it. Well, and I'm going to assume it's got everything in it. It's got rat poison. It's got new COVID. It's got like devil bones, like all the things that are going to ruin my future, you know?
Yeah.
And I just get so paranoid about stuff like that. But it's like it's funny when you get handed things by the fans and you're kind of just like, sometimes there's like baked goods I've noticed, like, especially with the Jokers, even like we get a lot of like fans that feel like they need to feed them. And I'm like, they open the box up and I'm like, guys, don't like, please. We have the whole city rolling out the red carpet to you. Like, please don't eat those brownies. Like, God knows it's like,
and it's like, and it's very kind and very sweet, but you know, those guys are rich. I'm sure they're like, this is nice, but
they are the Beatles to their fans, dude. It is strange.
And they're an inspiration, especially to, you know, a middle-aged gent like myself, where it's kind of like, those guys, you know, I'm kind of online friends with Sal, but like, you know, I don't really know those guys, but like, I never want to do what they do. I'm not a big hidden camera participator guy. I was on an online show called IKEA Heights where we filmed a sitcom illegally in various IKEAs. I've been kicked out of every IKEA in Southern California.
Excellent.
Except for the Burbank one because it's new. It's too new. But they used to have my picture up in their offices. Like the last time a cop walked me out, and I'm like, we got to stop shooting this goddamn show, man. And it was a panic attack. I hated it. I hated doing it.
Oh,
but like,
man.
So like, I respect what they do like so much. But you know, that said, they don't. Dude, I'll never forget. Buddy of mine worked at this. I don't know if you know that chain Maggiano's.
Oh yeah.
That Italian food chain.
Yes.
West. Yeah, I don't know. I think they have it East Coast too. So
in Denver, I was working at Rock Bottom Brewery. So.
Okay, so I was working. Speaking of Denver, I was working at Rock Bottom Brewery in Chicago. And the whole time I lived there, all 6 years, and I waited tables and I bartended, and I knew everyone else in the restaurants around, and like I had a friend who waited at tables at Maggiano's. And one night, you know, the king of Chicago, Brian Dennehy, is in there.
Oh,
and
wow.
he's having dinner, and like some guy is like a manager comes over and he's after the meal, he's like, "Was everything all right, Mr. Dennehy?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it's great, thanks." And he was just eating with a friend, and he goes, "Hey, the meal, it's on the arm, it's on the house." And Brian Dennehy's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because we love you." He's like, "What? I'm doing fine." Hey, what's your name? Guy at the table next to him, you know, "My name's Mike." "Buy Mike's meal." "Would you don't pay for Mike's? Would you do that for me?" And the manager's like, "All right." And so he paid it sideways. Paid the whole meal. I'm famous movie star Brian Dennehy.
I got it.
I'm the model of the modern masculine male intellectual. I'm fine.
Yeah, this restaurant could be called Dennehy's with one phone call. You think I need your chicken your endless breadsticks for free? Thank you anyway.
Have you heard the song Dennehy by Serengeti, the rapper Serengeti?
No.
He's a Midwestern Chicago guy, and the entire song is rapped in a Chicago accent, and it's all references and stuff. And the chorus is favorite actor Dennehy, favorite drink Old Duels, Bears, Hawks, Sox, Bulls.
Oh, wow. I got it. That's like, amazing. I got to check that out. That is so cool.
It's a bop, but also it's hilarious. My wife has heard it 1,000 times. She's probably sick of it now, but it's like
that's so cool.
it's like
I gotta check that out.
You talk to your archetypal Chicago guy. They're like, Daddy, hey,
Yeah,
that guy's the best, greatest actor. I mean,
big Tom Callahan,
the thing is, the guy did Chekhov. He did the great stuff. Did you see his production of the Death of a Salesman? My God, yeah,
it was sublime, transcendent, even
sublime. That is the thing I miss about Chicago. You have these Teamsters at the bar discussing Dostoevsky. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no,
I didn't like The Fool. I feel like it was kind of a waste of my time. It's a long book. I mean,
I'm more a Faust guy. I'm more a Faust head. Hilarious.
It's a great lesson. Look in the fine print. I always say, all these guys doing, these fucking contractors doing jobs for Trump, he never pay you. You know what I mean? It's like you're going to hell and you don't even get the knowledge.
What is this, Dante's Inferno?
Inferno?
Inferno? Hey, I have to ask you.
In the ninth circle of hell.
Huh? This is a new circle. It's the 10th, 9th and a half.
They added a circle.
They added one. I got to ask you, Roadhouse, I know you're a fan. What did you watch the new one? Thoughts?
Yes. And it's, insane, and there's a lot I would have changed, but it's fun to watch. The thing I will say, it's an unremakeable movie because the original Roadhouse as a concept is bonkers. And you have speaking of archetypal men, we'll never have another Patrick Swayze. Never. We'll never have a masculine dancer who wrote his own songs, who, like Rob Lowe was talking about what it was like to work with him, whereas like at night after we were done shooting, I think it was like Outsiders or something, he's like, we'd all go party, and he would go to his room and write music and do push-ups with his feet up against the wall. Like, what the fuck?
Amazing. I know.
It's just like, what a man. It's like that Billy Gardell bit about ladies, lower your standards. There's no such thing as fireman poets.
Yeah.
He was a fireman poet.
He was a fireman poet. Yeah. He set the fire, wrote a poem about the fire, and then put the fire out, dude.
He danced his way through the fire, putting it out with his moves.
You're right. And the fire came when they get
to be. Before I saw that Chris Farley sketch, the Chippendale sketch, and after it, I was a different human being because
100%.
I still felt terrible for Chris Farley and his body. Yeah. But I was also like, God, the balls on that man. National television, dolphin diving with his fat going everywhere. But like, we forget how hard to be Swayze with a literally perfect body, but also be funny.
Yep.
No one can do that. No one can be funny and that ripped and that hot.
Yep.
It's impossible. But because he's literally like an angel. Like one of those things like, oh, here's the true face of Christ. But it was like a Middle Eastern Patrick Swayze. I'd be like, yeah, of course.
Sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
To Patrick Swayze from Jerusalem. Okay.
Yeah. It's a shroud of Swayze. It's just like a gold gym shirt with
still the mullet.
Mullet
still
sweat.
The
mullet sweat, Mark. Oh, God.
And it's like, I mean, I could do a whole other podcast about Roadhouse, but like, you had Swayze, you had Chris Elliott, who somehow is the hottest man of all time. Sam Elliott. Yeah, Chris Elliott, the hottest man. Get a life, Chris Elliott.
I'm
so
like,
hot.
Cabin Boy is the hottest man of all.
Have you seen him now? He's ripped. Like, what if Chris Elliott now is just shredded and he's like, what? He's like Lenny Kravitz.
He calls everybody Miho.
He's ripped. No, Sam Elliott, full head of silver hair.
The best.
If you have a body like him and that voice and that mustache, and you're like 70, but you have a full head of silver hair, you're pulling any girl.
Of course.
You're breaking up marriages at will.
You're a human Bob Seger song at that point.
I understand. Yes. Kicking super high. You have Ben Gazzara as the bad guy being like, I'm the reason J.C. Penney's in this town. Like, that's your brag.
That's your brag.
So 80s. J.C. Penney's. He has 1 million taxidermied animals in his house, a comical amount of taxidermied animals. And he brings a guy around. If you're like the bad guy and you bring a dude around, who's doing fucking high kicks and flipping around with a fucking pool cue. Like if a dude came in the bar and was doing that pool cue shit, you'd be like, are you like with a drill team? Are you in a school band?
What is this? Yeah, totally.
Where's your fucking hat?
What are you getting ready for the Cotton Bowl?
Yeah, you're the most top gay guy I've ever seen in my life.
Ever. Yeah.
You are king top.
You make dudes kiss fight in front of you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Kiss him.
Harder.
Or beat you both up. Harder. Yeah. That dude is so absurdly ripped and like insane. And the immortal line, I used to fuck guys like you in prison. Just like, so you watch that as a kid and you're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm not going to prison.
And it's like, but it's also kind of a compliment. It's one of the, he's basically being like, I like you. Why don't you like me? He just can't. He's progressive.
It's the nice way of saying it. Yeah.
The absurdity is too high. So even when you have Conor McGregor and you've got Jake Gyllenhaal, it's a lot of fun, but it can never ascend to the absurdist heights.
Well, even the way that, I mean, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't ever seen the original Roadhouse, and if you haven't, it's a sin. But I mean, like, dude, the polar bear fell on me, like that. Just the way that ends with like, I mean, he's just this big dumb tub of shit and a polar. How silly! I mean, and you just can't again the silliness.
And it's just none of it makes any sense.
It's 80s, and none of it makes sense.
The first shot of the movie is like Patrick's naked ass. Like it's like he gets out of bed and there's his butt. That's like right after the credits.
Yep.
Here we go, off to the races.
And it's like, okay, there you go. Yeah.
And like the fights break out of this Roadhouse at a comical rate, like a rate that nothing comes close to. Nothing.
Right.
There's chicken wire everywhere. So because bottles are constantly flying. Bands still play there. Bands are like, listen, you might lose an eye, but we got to play this place. We love it. And yeah, so it's the new one's a lot of fun, but it's just like I don't know. You're trying to remake an unremakeable thing.
Dude, they're fighting in like a Margaritaville basically in this one. And the band is like covering like Ziggy Marley, and it's like, who knows the next movie that they're going to remake, but man, it is so good to chat with you, and we have to do it again, but
we'd absolutely do it again.
Tell everybody where they can find you and follow you.
Yeah, you can go to mattbraunger.com or mattbraunger.com/tour. That's MattBraungher.com. That'll have all my stuff, all my dates coming up. I will say I'm going to be in July. I will be in New York, Philly, and Boston at City Wineries there.
Oh, great. So, great. Well, let's hang out, man.
Yeah, let me actually get those. Let me get those dates real quick so I can get this out. Okay, so July 18th, New York, July 19th, 2 shows in Boston, July 20th, Philly. So,
okay,
come see me.
Let's have lunch. Let's have lunch when you're in town.
100%, dude. I would love it. All right.
I love you, brother. Thank you so much.
You too, man.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Peace out.
Peace.